The cat had never shown interest in the crib before. Lydia had expected this. Everyone told her the cat would be a problem. Jealous, territorial, unpredictable around the infant. Maple had been none of those things. She had approached the carrier on the first day, sniffed it once, and retreated to her usual place on the radiator, indifferent in the way that cats communicate their approval of a situation. Then the sixth night home came. Lydia found Maple in the crib at 11 in the evening, not curled against the baby, sitting upright at the foot of the mattress, her attention fixed on the sleeping infant's face with an intensity that Lydia associated with the cat tracking something invisible. She removed the cat. At 2 in the morning, she found her again. Same position, same quality of attention. She removed her again. At 4, she gave up removing the cat and stood in the doorway watching. Maple was tracking the baby's breathing. Lydia could see it, the cat's head moving with the slight rise and fall of the infant's chest, a small adjustment each time the rhythm changed, like a metronome reading another metronome and finding the tempo slightly off. At 5 in the morning, Lydia called the overnight nurse line. She described the baby's breathing, the rhythm she had been watching for an hour. The slight irregularity she had only noticed because the cat had drawn her attention to the right place in the room. The nurse asked her to time the intervals. She counted aloud while the nurse waited. "I want you to go to the emergency room." The nurse said, "Not in the morning now." The diagnosis was RSV with early lower respiratory involvement. The attending pediatrician used the words "caught" before complication twice during the admission. Lydia sat in the hospital room with the baby while the oxygen support did its work, and thought about the cat, about the sixth night and why the sixth night was different, about whether Maple had been smelling something in the baby's breath, the compounds that change when a respiratory infection begins to affect oxygen exchange, or whether she had simply been listening more carefully than any human in the house. She didn't know which it was. She wasn't sure it mattered. What mattered was the cat in the crib, the quality of attention that had drawn Lydia into the room and held her there long enough to count breaths and make the call. The pediatrician who discharged them 4 days later asked how the breathing difficulty had been identified so early given the absence of fever and obvious distress. Lydia told her about Maple. The doctor was quiet for a moment. "Cats can detect changes in respiratory chemistry," she said carefully. "The research is less developed than it is for dogs, but the capacity is documented. Some breeders have reported consistent behavior in cats around respiratory illness in children." She looked at Lydia. "The important thing is that you acted on what you observed." "I almost didn't," Lydia said. "I thought she was being difficult." She drove home with the baby and found Maple on the radiator in her usual position, not in the nursery, not watching the crib. Lydia sat down near her. "You're done now," she said. It wasn't a question. Maple looked at her with the mild condescension of a cat who has completed a task and returned to her business. On the fourth night after they came home, she appeared at the foot of the crib again, not in the alert posture of the vigil, just present. A brief check, a brief accounting, and then gone. Lydia watched her go and thought about all the nights she had slept while the cat sat with the baby. She thought about what the word indifferent actually means when applied to a cat. She had assumed it meant absence of care. It meant absence of drama about the care. The care itself was constant. The drama of it was entirely hers. The family processed it in stages. First, the immediate relief of knowing, of having information where before there had been unease and explanation, and the particular discomfort of watching an animal do something unexplained. Second, the retrospective, the looking back through the days of behavior and reassigning meaning. This moment was not play, it was alert. This moment was not territorial, it was navigation. The rereading happened over dinner, over the drive home from the clinic, in the quiet of the nights that followed. Third, the question that did not have an answer, and that they found they did not need answered. How long had the cat known? Not known, detected, responded to, done the thing. The research existed. They found it in pieces over the following days. Studies on canine olfactory detection of blood glucose, studies on animal alerting to seizure precursors, documented cases of dogs identifying respiratory changes, cardiac events, bacterial infections, all before human instruments registered anything wrong. The mechanism in each case was the same: chemical compounds that shift when physiology changes, compounds that exist in breath and skin, and the microscopic chemistry of a body doing something different than its normal operating state. A dog's nose contains roughly 300 million olfactory receptors. A human nose contains approximately 6 million. The math was simple. The implication was less simple. It meant the cat had been living in a version of their home that was richer in information than the version they occupied, had been reading in real time a chemical record of everyone in the house, had been tracking changes in that record the way a careful person tracks changes in a patient's chart, had flagged the change, had acted on the flagging, had kept acting until someone paid attention. The father sat in the kitchen one evening the week after. The cat was asleep in his usual place. The house was quiet. He thought about the word alert, about what it meant when applied to an animal rather than an instrument. Instruments beeped. Lights came on. Numbers changed on screens. This had been different. This had been a living thing making a decision about what the information required and then executing the decision daily, without acknowledgement, without the guarantee that anyone would ever understand what it was doing. Just doing it. Just staying at the post.